Welcome back to the Hours. This week we are diving into part two with Coach Joe Crispin at Penn State. You got to know him last week. He is a wonderful contributor to the game of basketball. And so this week we're gonna throw it right back to him. This is part two. It was one continuous conversation that we broke up into two parts. So we're about to dive in where he addresses the off-season issue that most high school coaches have, that he also had as a Division III head coach, which you don't get a lot of time to work with your players in the off season. You're very constrained. And so how do you get better in the off season? How do you identify the strengths and weaknesses of your team? How do you train your principles of play with your players? So let's go ahead and dive right in where Mark is asking Joe that question.
D3, you can't work with your players outside of the season. A lot of high school, just given the state constraints, have the same constraint. How did you approach like off-season skill development? Did you give them a workout? Did you trust that they were working out? Did you encourage them to play as much pickup as possible? What did that look like?
Number one was pickup. I swear by pickup. I think pickup is the most underestimated, undervalued thing in the entire universe of basketball. With our organization that we started back in Jersey, that my wife now runs, is like that was we essentially created an organized pickup league for kids. Because you have to organize it, but like the score resets, like these kids are just free to play. The thing I always explain to people is I was a Division III coach. We had chemistry and we had hierarchy at the start of the season every single time because our guys played massive amounts of pickup together. They learned each other, right? And I always say, like, dudes, especially dudes, like I coach the ladies, and like you can sit them around in a circle and a lot of times they'll talk to each other and like figure things out. Not dudes. Like you need to have some honest conversations, but like dudes need to play together. They need to dig holes together. They need to go condition together on their own, frankly. And the more they're away from me, the better, because they will own it and figure it out. And sometimes, frankly, it's not always fun to watch. But there's a hierarchy. I never had to explain who got the last shot at the beginning of the season. Never had to do it. There was never an issue because they played so much pickup together. So pickup is like my number one. Two is like one-on-one, small-sided games. Like just play one-on-one. Become a better one-on-one player. Become a better one-on-one defender. Usually with a time constraint. Sometimes within reason, a dribble constraint. And then the biggest thing I used to always say that I do think is underestimated today is come back in September more excited about basketball than you've ever been. And if you need to take a month and go to the beach and do nothing, then take a month and go to the beach. Because I think a lot of we underestimate in our youth environment how much even my own kids, right? Like I got my own kids playing tons of ball, and I'm always cognizant of like, you love this, right? Take a break. You don't have to always grind. You don't have to like we often tell ourselves stories that aren't true. Oh, I was grinding and I was doing it, and like sometimes I was, but like I always tell people, like if you went back to those playgrounds, the games weren't as they weren't. You remember them as something as they weren't, right? Like you didn't run back on defense all the time. You didn't do this, and it's like so. Let's not hold our kids to a higher standard than we actually attained.
That's a great reminder. I'm feeling that for my daughter right now as well, because she has big dreams in basketball,
Yeah.
and I definitely remember like, oh, I was getting after it. You're not doing a daily ball handling workout like I was. And I'm like, huh, was I actually doing a daily ball handling workout when I was 10? You know,
Yes. Go back in your time machine, and you will be very unimpressed with yourself. Absolutely.
exactly. That's really
And
good.
and not to mention, like I always tell people, I did too much. I literally did too much. I would have been a better shooter and player if I had done less. I more was better, more was better, more was better. I lived with tendonitis for 8 years. Like I didn't have to do that. And
Mhm.
I all I had to know was that I actually was a world-class shooter. I didn't everyone else knew. I only kind of knew, right? So it's like stuff like that if I had really recognized that I had already put in the work to be great. I was just refining it. I call that turning the corner. I tell that to our guys here a lot. I'm like, yo, you're already great at this, but you're still acting like you're 12 and you're not. And that's not how you're going to become a pro. Being a pro is sometimes turning the corner and saying, yeah, yeah, I am great at this. All right,
Mhm.
I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because in all professional pursuits in sports being like the microcosm, people turn the corner in a moment, right? And
Yeah.
that's not a simple thing. It is a switch thing
Yes.
when you believe that thing about yourself so deeply that it can't be shaken.
Yes.
That's really good. That's really good, and that's what we're trying to do as coaches. We're trying to help players turn the corner, just a little sooner than they would on their own.
We always said, and this is like not on our list necessarily, but I am super passionate about creating those moments. There's a way to coach basketball that makes those moments possible. There's a way to coach basketball that makes those moments almost impossible, right? So, like some of my proudest moments, you can't, it's not a championship. It's the kid who didn't shoot the three coming in, made three threes in a row in a game and just changed the whole game. And we won the game. And I always say, people say you can't win a game in 90 seconds. And I'm like, yes, you can. You can win a game in 90 seconds. You can take, I did that for a living. The way I played the game, it was like, hey, I would start. You see this with Curry sometimes, right? I would just start, and I'm like, it's a Sunday night. My knees are sore. I'm 30 years old. I'm kind of like, I'm here. There's 5,000 people here. I'm here for you, but like, man, dude, all right, I'll find it. Drank my espresso before the game. Like, it's harder than you think. And then something comes alive. You get a layup, and then it's boom, 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 three threes, and now we're up 11, and the other team had to call timeout. And it's like, well, you're not winning tonight. The game's over. Okay. And I'm going to do that one more time just to show you that the game's over. Well, there's a way of playing that enables those magic moments that are just the most, that's what I miss about playing was those moments and the big shots in the fourth quarter, not the well executed set out of the timeout. I don't dream about that ever. It was the spontaneity. It was this creativity. It was the feel. It was the gut. It was just the beauty of just like, I'm fully immersed in my play. That's that's what I'm trying to create. That's art. That's music. That's not, you know, it's jazz band, not orchestra, right? That's what we want to create. That's the kind of structure we want to create. Is the structure that produces those spontaneous, beautiful, creative moments that surprise even the players, that surprise you, and you just say, "Wow, that's so much fun." That's where the magic is.
Yeah, I heard a coach say this before. It always stuck with me. Is like there's a moment in every game that it's like ripe for the taking. Like if you win, you don't have to win every single moment, but there's always this like one moment. If you win it, it's like the 6-0 run, and then you give up an and one. It's like, oh, well, now it's a 6-3. It's not really
Yes.
much of a run. If we'd have gotten a stop there and it's 8-0, then they're calling a timeout. Like, ooh, we might have just won the game in the third quarter, or college basketball early in the second half. And then you talked about like the spontaneity, the free flowing part of the game. That's what I miss about coaching. Because that was like my last experience. Now I coach coaches and help people have their best season yet. But what I miss is like feeling the other team's damn break. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, that 8 point lead is now 16. And like that was so that those 8 points were that's gonna ride me for like the next month.
Yes.
So I think as a coach, off season tip, if we're still on the three tips, one of mine would be just prepare your team for the unscripted moments of the game. Like less less intervention, less stopping in practice, or less feedback even at practice. Just like let them figure it out. And then when they show you that they can't figure it out, or something becomes a pattern where it's like, okay, we don't get this, that's where you got to do your job as a coach and fill in the blanks. But just let it go. Whether it's a skill workout, whether it's a practice, whether it's a game, like sometimes they just need room to figure it out as players.
Yeah, and pickup's one of the best places for that. I mean, one of the stories I share too often is I was in Spain. We had a coaching change. I was averaging a lot of points at the time, and like briefly after the coaching change, I had a game where I scored 35. We beat a team by like 10 or 12, but it was like we handled them. And going back to the film, I remember like I didn't score any within the structure of the offense, like none. And the coach, whose Spanish was or his English wasn't great, brought me in like a day or two later and was like showing me all my, still bothers me to this day, like all my isolated shots, completely devoid of the context of the game. And the assistant is kind of on my side and he's translating. And he knows, like, I'm just going to go, dude, you've lost me, buddy. Because you've just clipped up. I just created a picture for you. We put 11,000 people on their feet. The guy had to call 3 timeouts to stop runs, and we took their soul. with these shots, and you just didn't. No, that's not how it works, man. And I just remember saying to him, like, I hate to tell you this, but like, you don't get all that stuff without taking the risks. And yeah, you're right. I'm going to miss them sometimes, and I'm going to test your transition defense with these transition threes. But there's greater reward, and the risk is worth it, right? And a lot of times, that you got to teach them that, right? You got to teach coaches that you're trustworthy, that you'll help them win more. I get that, but in general, we're often trying to teach kids skills, and we don't teach their guts. We don't teach them how to feel the game, and that's a whole different way of thinking and teaching and coaching.
Yeah. And this is why I love these articulations that you're sharing. I mean, this is what we do on the hours. Like we call it SAVI basketball. And, I think we found each other because we believe similar things about the way the game should be taught and played. And, savvy just means like a deep understanding and knowledge of something. There's a line that you said that I believe is the line of demarcation for us. If someone's like a savvy coach, or like you identify with what we have named a savvy coach. If someone's a savvy coach or not a savvy coach, and it's really, I think, the battle, the war that we're fighting for coaches. You can coach in such a way, this is what you said. You can coach in such a way that it is either possible to have those moments, the ones that you're referring to, or impossible to have those moments. A savvy coach coaches in such a way they try to create an environment to make those moments possible. And even beyond winning games, those moments of artistry and exultation are, I believe, why we play sport, why we play basketball.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
basketball is just the most artistic and beautiful game. And so it's like, are you a savvy coach? You're trying to create those moments. Are you not yet a savvy coach? You're not trying to create those moments. You're trying to create your structure. And that's it. So I wanted to highlight that because it was just so beautiful. Let's go shoot some transition threes.
That's when, and that really is the core, right? And part of it is like how you view the game, right? And understanding like how you view the game. And then I always say to coaches, and maybe this actually fits in some points, is like, do you know how you're willing to lose? Have you specified, right? I used to always say as a player, I'd always say, he doesn't know that he's actually game planning because he's okay losing this way, not really believing that he'll win this way. And, my commitment just personally is like, especially when I was a head coach, right? And it's still here because we're in alignment with that with coach, is like, we're going to lose letting players play. And, that when you prove that to players, by the way, they're on your team, right? And that was always my recruiting pitch as a head coach, and it's our recruiting pitch here. Like, we're gonna let you play. Coach lets you play. He's gonna let you take risks and own your own risks, and he can handle it. That is powerful. That is really powerful, because if you don't believe that, players know. You can't hide it, right? You can't hide it. And if you don't believe it, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter if they're 12 or 10 or 25, 30. You're going to lose them if you don't believe that in your core. So you can't fake it. That's for sure.
Hey everybody, this is Tyler, and I'd like to personally invite you to join our free Savvy coaching community. Post any question you have here in our chat and get your questions answered, as well as get access to all of our free resources in our Savvy community. We've got it all here for you. So click the link below and we'll see you inside. Yeah. Okay, well, let's maybe give them this last one. I think it's come out a little bit in the wash of this conversation, but you mentioned listening, the tool for coaches, listening to your frustrations. You want to unpack that one as like our final teaching point here on the hours today?
Yeah, I just always, the way I put it, I always think self-awareness is the most important thing in coaching, right? So your personal development, just spiritual development, personal development, knowing who you are, knowing what you value, knowing what you stand for, standing for the right things, being someone of integrity, being someone who's like, if you're not for your family, it's going to affect you on the court. If you're not for the community, it's going to affect you on the court. If you're really about yourself, your players are going to sniff you out in a second. So like, you really doing personal evaluation in the off season, I think is the foundational one. But the frustration part is also very basketball oriented. I think a lot of times we don't listen to our frustrations enough, right? We don't, if the things that just drive you, and you guys might have talked about this on one of your episodes, of just like the things that just drive you crazy. Well, those are the things that you either have to ask yourself, have I worked on this enough? Because sometimes you haven't. Can I work on this enough? Because if I can't, then I need to stop going crazy about it, right? So if the rebounding's driving me crazy, but I just don't have a great rebounding team, then I just need to have some self control and ignore it, and just stop and say, hopefully we're even, right? But for me, it was like my number one frustration is slow pace of play. I always talk about this with everyone. Like, that's a personal constraint. I did it one time in my entire coaching career. I played slow. I had 3 dudes injured, key dudes. I'm like, we're going to grind it out. We're going to give ourselves a chance on the road. And there's like 16 minutes left in the game, and I'm fuming at myself. And I'm saying to my assistant coaches, don't ever let this happen again. Don't ever let me do this. I will play the 15th man. I will play my sister before I ever do this again. I'll lose by 30. This is not what we stand for. This is not our identity. This is my constraint. So, like, I frustrated with slow pace of play, right? That's one for me. I hate strong hand layups, especially in transition. So I would say, like, hey, we want to speed up the game. I'm willing to endure some because that first one is first, right? And there's some teams that you might need to give a little because you risk some to get that pace of play. But if you give up a strong hand layup because you did something stupid and reached in transition, just walk to the bench, man, because I hate that, right? And then, offensively, I hated just selfish play, right? Like, if the way I put it, the way we played a lot of ball, like up and down ball in practice, because I always would tell the guys, like, any shot you take that wouldn't fly on a busy playground, that's our shot selection grid, right? Is like, then I had to teach them what that is, because most of our kids haven't played on a busy playground, right? I said, if you took that shot, like your boy just hit 2 in a row, and you now think it's your time to jack up the 3, like, no, right? So you have to coach your guys through that by playing, right? I had the group of 10-year-olds, my little guy, 10-year-old in the gym, and he's a jacker, man. He's got no conscience. He's hilarious at his amazing, unbelievable confidence that he has. And, he got one tipped. He shot from NBA range, and then we were playing for fun. NBA finals, right? Everybody chooses a character, and we're playing for fun, 4-on-4. And he jacks up this shot, and he's like, he hit my arm. I said, I don't care if he punched you in the face. You are not getting a foul on that because you are being dumb, right? And this is my boy. He knows I love him to death. I can say that to him in front of everyone, and he just laughs like, all right, yeah, I got you. And, well, what am I teaching him? He's like, I'm not telling you to never shoot that pull-up 3, but I'm telling you, you need to understand the context and the flow of the game, right? And that's what I mean by selfish basketball. It's just like the kind of basketball that's just like, you're not in tune, man. You're not in tune. You just played a note that nobody's on the same page. Like, that's not how this works, man. We're in the same band together. You can't just go off on another key when it's your turn. That's those were like my 3 things. Like, when you would see me jump off the bench and lose it, it was usually on those 3 things. It was that simple.
Yeah, you said something that like really like brought me back to like my middle school, high school days. The busy playground. I used to go play at a gym, and Monday nights it was always super packed.
Yep.
So Monday, it's like if you lost, you might not play again, right? Because like my ride was coming, so I might have to sit for an hour. Those nights, I'm like, all right, like I'm going to play defense. I'm going to pass the ball. I'm going to space the floor. At least I hope I was doing those things. But on like Wednesday nights when there's no one waiting, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna do some
Exactly.
more here. So it's the environment is the teacher there. It's
Exactly.
implicit learning. Like I know where I fit in because all these guys are they felt like they were 40 years old. They were probably like, in college or whatever.
Yes.
But as an eighth grader, I just like knew my role and no one had to tell me anything. Or if I did, they'd be like, hey dude, like we can kick you off this court at any moment. So
Yes.
chill out. Right.
We're not going to pick you up next time if you act like
Exactly.
it. And that's
Yeah.
why the playground was a better teacher than our entire system today. I got a whole book planned on that one. And like, that's one of my number ones. And I have that in one of my chapters is like, if you really evaluate a busy playground, it has every principle for great offense. Every principle. You play through your best players, you counter off them, you don't take stupid shots or selfish shots because then you won't get picked up. You'll literally not be able to play again. Playing different roles, all these different things. Like, it's unbelievable how organic the teaching was. And now we try to control the teaching and we're way worse at it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think three things for coaches to take away, just even from that last little section. Like number one, don't overthink your practice planning and don't overbuild your drill book. The game is the teacher. And two, like just even listening to how you would talk to players in the midst of the game, that's coaching, that's teaching, right? Coaching isn't listing out every minute of practice with all of these drills, right? Teaching is have them play basketball, observe it, watch it, listen to the game, and then just teach, right? And teach in a way that that players can understand. I mean, and then lastly, like know the things and communicate the things that will really frustrate you. Strong hand layups and transition, playing. So like be very clear, like those are your principles of play. I mean, you get those three things figured out and you are on your way to being a very impactful coach.
The other thing you guys do a great job of that I try to make explicit with coaches is like, and my story is unique, right? I spent like 17, 20 years. Like I could have been on a spaceship and I didn't know what was going on here in youth sports or coaching or whatever. I was just doing my thing, playing. And then I came back and I'm like, people were telling me these kids think at this and they're not good at this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how bad can it be? They're just kids, right? And then I get into the space and I'm like, wow, they really are different. So you have to coach these kids differently than my dad coached me. I always tell my dad, like, he made assumptions about what we were doing off the court that he built upon. Well, if you can't assume those things anymore. We organize ourselves. We played pickup stuff. We played pickup baseball. We played a variety of sports. We fought things out and we organized our own teams. We chose teams. We chose good teams. We changed teams. All these different things. He built off those things, and then he could run a more structured practice, and it actually helped us be better. Well, if you can't assume those things, right? If you can't assume that kid has any gut understanding because he's literally been in an adult directed environment his entire youth and he's just been told what to do and kept appointments and done drills, he doesn't understand. You can't be mad at him for not understanding that shot selection, right? So like I always say, I'm not mad at you like you don't know, but like I'm here to teach you that that same shot at the 16-minute mark that you shot is now the stupidest shot in the world at the 11-minute mark because of what happened in those in between times. And that's more of the artistry to me in coaching, that I think is more, I think it's always been essential, but I think it's more essential now than it's ever been at every level of play.
Playing like an artist, coaching like an artist, I think is just a tagline and a mindset that I encourage all coaches to lean into. Which player would you say plays the most like an artist? Or when you think playing like an artist, which player, and you can't say yourself, which player, which player would you say plays most like an artist, in current or past at any point?
I'm going to. You said pass, so that I'm going to go Pete Maravich because that's my guy. But then I'll say modern day. The one that popped in my head first would be Luka Doncic, just because he does it all from everywhere, and just like he takes unpredictable shots, but he can kind of manipulate situations like few players can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we're going past and current, then I'm actually going to go past Larry Bird, thinking specifically as passing, and current, I'm going to go Kyrie Irving. Just the artistry of his movements and ball handling. Joe, what would you say?
Past, I got a ton of names going through my head. Like I almost want to choose someone like totally different because I think we often nowadays are underestimating like the guys who, my brother uses this term all the time. I give him credit. He doesn't give me credit when he uses my stuff on ESPN. I'll give him credit here is they move the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have there's an artistry about moving the game, right? I've tried to teach my son that you move the game. You don't just play the game, you move the game. The game is played the way you want it to be, and you do it your way, which is different than my way. He's more of a pass guy, and I was thinking of Mo Cheeks, right? So like I was a South Jersey guy. Like Mo Cheeks wasn't necessarily the scorer, but he was the game mover, right? He managed the game. So like I think sometimes we undervalue those guys nowadays.
Yep.
And then, I mean, the kid, the one that is my favorite, of course, because I think I played like him before it was cool, is Curry, right?
Yep.
I think he's an artist. I think he plays with his gut in a way that is the most attractive thing about him. It's not
Yep.
the jumper, it's his soul. Like he plays with a joy and a freedom that is attractive, right? And it is artistry. It's not technical stuff, and that's why Kerr's been such a great coach for him.
Mhm.
Is he's tapped into that and just released it for the world. What a
Yep.
gift!
Well, here's one thing I know we have to do this again. I learned, I got better. I had a great time. Thank you for spending time with us here on the hours. We're Savvy Coaching. Do you want to tell coaches if they wanted to follow you or check out your book where they could find it?
Great call. Yeah, I am on Twitter barely. I have to get better, or X. That shows how much I'm on there on social media. I am on there. Find me. I need to actually start doing something with it. I can't. I don't run my organization anymore, but I'm still able to do some things for kids at younger ages at crispinbasketball.com. You can find a lot of stuff about me there. My wife now owns and runs that business, but. And then, yes, my book was called Offense Wins. It was written before I ever coached. Which is what makes it a unique book. And I plan on having some more books out there soon. One of a title I'll tell you guys later. It'll be kind of funny. I think it'll be an in your face thing for a lot of the youth sports folks.
I like that.
Thanks for having me. You guys are doing great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, Coach.